Hi, Internet friends! I don't know how you found me, but I'm glad that you did. My name is Lydia, and I'm a 30-something single woman living in the Midwest. And I don't know what this channel is yet, but I guess we'll figure it out together. Since I uploaded my last video over a month ago, I have recorded 3 more videos that I just never edited and posted. And I don't think I'm ever going to edit or post them. So today I'm going to try really hard to just go with the flow and keep the amount of editing that I need for this video minimal. So excuse any crazy misspeaking or just me being a weirdo, because I think that the more I have to edit, the less likely I'm going to be to actually put this video up. Anyway, today is the 31st of January, which is a good time to do another budget video. So today I'll be closing out my January budget and starting my February budget. So stay tuned if you like watching people do that sort of stuff. Let's just jump over to the budget spreadsheet. I budget in Excel, and this is my Excel spreadsheet. So you can see at the top, this is my January budget. And I divide my sheet into about 3 sections. I have income, which is the money that I have to spend. Then my expenses, and this is what I do spend. And then savings, goals, and sinking funds, which is money that I'm saving for later. So to start out, in January, I had $2,857.84 that I earned from my job, and I also earned $6.25 in interest. So this is the money that I was working with. And so how did I spend that money? If we jump down to expenses, you'll see I have my expenses further broken down into 3 categories. I have a fixed essentials, which is money that I spend every month, that I need to spend every month. And they're fixed because I know roughly what I'm going to spend every month on them. So this doesn't change very often. I also have rolling essentials, which again is money that I probably am going to spend every month, but I don't necessarily spend the same amount on these type of expenses every month, just because one month I need to spend more money on something than I would the other month. For me, it's much easier to budget the same amount every month, regardless of how much I expect to spend on that thing every month, just because then when I go through and do my actual budget, there's a lot less number crunching. So instead what I do is roll money month to month. A lot of people would consider these sinking funds. Maybe they are sinking funds, I don't know. But I started doing this way before that term was in my vocabulary. It's just what made sense to me. So I consider them more rolling expenses than a sinking fund, because to me, expenses or rolling essentials, it's just living my day-to-day life and money I expect to spend that. Whereas for me, a sinking fund is saving up for something that it's more of a special purchase, I guess, a special one-time thing, opposed to something that I need to budget for consistently. And finally, in the expenses category, I have luxuries. I like to separate my luxuries out just to remind me that these are things that I don't really need to survive, but it's nice to have. So jumping back up to the fixed essentials, every month I pay tithing to my church, and I don't really show you how much I pay for that just because I think that's more of a private thing, but it is something that I do spend. So I share that just so that my budget balances, kind of. Next is rent. I pay $625 a month to live in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment in a small city in the Midwest. So maybe you think that's high, maybe you think it's low. I think it's fine for rent. I'd like to spend less, but I like the space that I have, so I don't know that I'm really willing to downgrade at this point, and I don't really want to live with roommates anymore. Next is food. I've been having a bit of trouble with my food budget, but I did okay this month. So I budgeted $190 for food. This is my grocery budget and my eating out budget. So I have found that for me, it makes it easier for me to have few budget categories, and then I break down my budget into more specific things in my transactions section. So I'll just show you that really quickly. So my transactions page, you can see I have the date that I spend it, the amount of money that I spent, as well as the budget it comes out of. And then I have what I call tags, where I can indicate more specific things. So you'll see I spent some money on music, but that came out of the entertainment budget. I spent money on food, on groceries, and that came out of the food budget. And that way I can, when I want to, go look at the specifics of my budget. So maybe I can see where I'm spending too much on clothing or too much on music, but I don't have to have that many actual budget categories on my spreadsheet. And that's just what works for me. I also really like this because I can classify one expense as multiple things. So I bought some running shoes earlier this week. And I can say I spent it on clothing, but it was also like specifically for my running hobby. So I can go in and see how much money I spent on clothing and have that include all my running clothes, but also see how much I spent on running to see if maybe I need to cut back on running expenses later. Anyway, sorry for that tangent. Next in my fixed expenses is internet. I pay $40 a month for my internet. That's just what it costs. Okay, next up are the growing expenses. So these are things that I budget the same amount for every month, but every month I know that I'm not going to spend exactly what I budgeted on it. So for utilities was a toughie this month. I budget $55 every month, and I had $3 from last month over. So in total, I had $58.63, but when my utility bills came in, I actually ended up spending $69.21 on utilities. Now that account is down to minus $10.58, and the reason it went up so much was my gas bill. It took me a long time to figure out what was going on. So in my dashboard, I have this little graph that I made really quick when I was trying to figure out what was going on. So you can see in the bill that I paid in January 2021. So my electricity is showing in green, and that the summer months it's higher, and then in the winter and spring it's lower. So that was consistent. But then if you look at my gas bill, if you look at the Januaries, you can see that the gas part of the bill is like a third higher than it normally is, even in the winter. And that was really confusing me. Until I realized that normally during December, so my January bill is going to include what I spent on my gas in December. And usually in December, I'm gone for about 2 weeks for Christmas and I turn my heat way down. But I didn't do that this year because I decided not to travel home for Christmas because I didn't think I could travel home safely in the pandemic. And because of that, I didn't have that 2 weeks keeping my bill down. And that was rough. It was just such a bigger bill than I was used to. My gas bill itself was like $45, and it's normally not higher than like $30, $35. So that was a shock to the system, and I'm way down in the red. So I'm considering raising my utilities again. But when I did look over my average for utilities in the past year, the average was actually about $53 a month. So I decided not to raise it this year, and then I got my January bill, so I might raise it to $60 for a couple months and recalculate, but we'll see. We'll wait to see what February is like. Next in my rolling essentials is my cell phone, which I'm on a pay once a year plan. And I pay $21 a month to myself so that when my cell phone bill comes due, I think in April, I can just pay off for the year. And I think $21 a month is pretty good. I pay for a gig of data every month, which is more than I use because I just don't use data very much. And it's been working pretty well. Next in rolling essentials is transportation. For me, transportation includes any of my car expenses, so the insurance and the gas, right now that's pretty much all it is, but sometimes in the past I have taken trips and things, so I also pull like money for train tickets and things out of transportation. So I budget $145 every month. I had $186.93 in that fund, and this month the only thing I spent on my car was car insurance because I'm not driving anywhere, so I didn't even spend any money on gas. So I paid $67 for my insurance, and now I have $264.91 in that fund, so that's good, I guess. I have a bit of extra money. Personal care is what it sounds like. It's like if I need to buy shampoo or skin stuff. I was already in the hole. This month I budget $60 every month, and I was already $7.28 over. And then I spent $62.97. So now I'm $10.25 over. But next month I'm finally restocked on everything that I need. I have plenty of shampoo. I have plenty of facial cleanser. My acne treat. So one of the big expenses is every 2 months I spend $40 on Curology for acne and anti-aging. But I shouldn't have to pay for that next month. So I think I should have some money left over at the end of next month, hopefully. Household is things like paper towels, kitchen stuff, toilet paper, sometimes laundry. Laundry comes out of personal care and household, just depending on where I have money that month. So for laundry, because I don't have a washer dryer in my apartment, so I have to get quarters. But this month I only spent $1.46 on household stuff. I don't even know what that was. I mean, what would cost $1.46? I don't know, but I apparently didn't need to spend much money coming out of my household budget, so I had $18.26 left. And finally, my luxury expenses. So entertainment. I budget roughly $20 every month, and I had $26.41 in that budget. So entertainment, I spent money on Netflix. My Netflix bill of about $13 or $14 came out of there. And then I went a little crazy for me anyway, spending on music. So I bought several albums that I'd been holding off on and several just one-shot songs to add to my music library. So it felt like I was spending a lot of money, but in the end, I still have $5.43 left over in my entertainment budget. So I guess I'll start building that up again until the next time I really want to spend money on music. It was building up pretty slowly because, as you can see, like $20 and I spend $13 on Netflix every month. That's not a whole lot for entertainment expenses, but during the pandemic, it's not like I was going out and doing a whole lot of entertaining things, so it built up a little bit. Next in luxuries are gifts and donations, so Christmas presents, birthday gifts, any extra donations to charity I want to spend. That's another thing that I have blocked out because I don't think it's necessarily important for you to know exactly how much I spent on it, but it does make the budgeting portion a little bit difficult, so I left it on the spreadsheet to help understand the discrepancy. Finally, Mad Money is my miscellaneous category, so this is things that I forgot to budget for, as well as just things that I just want to buy randomly. So this is where a lot of I mentioned buying running shoes this month. So that's where running shoes would come out of my budget, is in the Mad Money account. So I budget $250 a month for just personal spending. I spent $188.06, and so I have $61.94 left over this month. Finally, my savings and sinking funds. So my big goal right now is saving for a down payment for a house. And that's where I'm putting a lot of my extra money. So every month I budget about $515, as well as anything that I earn in interest in my high yield savings account. That goes in the future home category. And so this month I budgeted $537.33, and it looks like I pulled out a lot of money and I didn't save anything, and instead I rated my saving my house savings account, but actually what I did was I moved some of that money into my IRA, which we're told a lot not to invest in a house down payment. And I do think in general that's good advice. And we're also told not to put money, like to save your IRA for retirement expenses. But for the past couple years, I have been moving $6,000 every year from my house down payment into my Roth IRA. And that's because I started a Roth IRA several years ago, but my current job retirement is actually really, really good. And the expenses, the operating expenses or fees I have, like the maintenance fees, are not high. So it makes a lot of sense for me to put as much money in my job's retirement accounts, and that does free up some space in an IRA so that I can invest my house down payment. The reason I'm investing it instead of just putting it in high yield savings is because I don't have a timeline for buying a house. I don't want to buy a house where I'm currently living, but I don't feel like I can plan on moving right now. So, and I'm not sure when I'd want to move. I just know that it's someday I want to buy a house. I just don't know when, I guess is the shortest way of saying that. So right now I'm investing it, investing a portion of it. Anyway, so that's why it looks like I rated my fund. I didn't really, I just moved it elsewhere. Next is a new car. It's still running fine. I've never had any problems with my car. But I do think eventually someday I would like to buy a new car. So I started setting aside about $190 a month. And right now I have $1,583.56. So that would not even really buy me a clunker. But in a few years, should be at a place that I could buy a used car. And if my car ever starts giving me more problems, I'm going to up it slowly. Right now, that's just where it is. My emergency fund is already fully funded. Then a Life Happens fund is actually an idea from Michelle Singletary, who's a personal finance columnist. And she just has an idea that your emergency fund should be like for emergencies, and then you should have a separate fund for things that you might not be expecting, but you should expect to happen sometime. So she says, like, if an appliance breaks or you need a car repair. So generally I like to have $2,000 in there. This summer I did have some body work that I did on my car, and I pulled partially out of the Life Happens fund, and I just haven't filled it up yet. I really need to do that. It's just been hard because I've been really saving for my home. So I don't know, if we ever get another stimulus check, I guess probably the number one thing I should do is build back up the Life Happens fund. Next, I have a health savings account. And for my health savings account, I do this partially straight out of my paycheck. So you don't see all of my contributions because some of them come out before I receive my paycheck. But after I elected to do that, I changed my mind about how much every month I wanted to put in my HSA. Because I decided to revert some of the money I was saving in retirement to the HSA, because I know in retirement I'm going to have health expenses anyway, so I might as well put as much money as I can in an HSA while I have an HSA, because there's more tax advantages to that type of account, because you can put it in pre-tax, it grows without taxes, and then you pull it out. If you spend it on health expenses, you aren't taxed there. So I changed my mind, and I expected to put $192.17 in there, but to max out for 2020, since I miscalculated how much I put in through my paychecks. So I ended up putting in $254.17 instead, so that I could finish maxing it out for the year. And this balance is the balance for the portion that I'm using for retirement, because I'm using a portion of it to pay for my health expenses now, because I do have health expenses now, and I don't earn a ton of money, so I do like having that. So this keeps track of just the retirement portion, and then I keep track of how much I have for medical expenses now later. So ideally, what I'm trying to do right now is build up that portion to meet my max out-of-pocket costs for a year. And then once I reach that point, then everything that goes in will just go straight to retirement. Then I have my Roth IRA, which is only showing the balance that I had for retirement. If I need to update this isn't accurate. And then finally, I have gifts and donations and Mad Money sinking funds. This is just a holdover from a long time ago. But what I do is I roll extra money that I have for gifts and expenses and Mad Money into a separate bank account just to keep it apart. And so that I know how much money I have to spend on expenses. So you'll see I earned a little bit of interest on my Mad Money account. And let's see. Now at the end of the month, I have to make sure everything balances. So that's what this sanity checks portion of my budget is about. So it shows how much money I've budgeted. So and I'll show a bit more when I do my actual budget. But for now, this shows how much money I spent as well, and helps me see how much money I haven't spent in my budget yet. Because the math is a little bit complicated since I use these rolling funds, and these stay in accounts. And so I just need to know how much money isn't part of these rolling expenses so I can roll it over. And this month it's a little messed up because I moved money around. So I don't actually have $6,000 that I can send to a savings account. I only have $61.94, which is the amount of Mad Money. That worked out pretty well. I mean, I had a little bit extra from food too, but because I put more in the HSA, and I think I ended up not actually putting in the whole $537 into the future home. So what I'll do is I actually already have it set aside because I have actually already physically, oops. So now if I go back into my budget, you can see it shows the balance of $6,000, which isn't right. That's just how much I had to transfer. So I'm actually going to put a note in here that $6,000 moved from down payment account into IRA, just so that I know where this weird 6,000 number is coming from. And I can save that. And now for budgeting for February. So all I have to do is make a copy of my budget. Then I'll rename it so I know that this is actually February. Then I just have to change these dates. Why did it go to December? Okay. Then last month was January 2021. So these dates will help the template pull in the appropriate expenses. And this date will pull in the correct number that I have in my rolling expenses. So you'll see those updated. Okay, so this month I have $2,909.30. I made some changes to my retirement contribution a couple months ago, but this is the first month that they've actually been active, I guess. So that's why it's a little bit higher, but I'm actually going to have to tweak my budget quite a bit. So my fixed essentials aren't going to change, except maybe my food budget. I think I might have to put my food budget a bit lower to make things balance. So my rent is always $625. My food is always $190, but that might change to $180, and my internet is always $140. Utilities, I kind of want trays, but I don't know how high my gas bill is going to be. I guess we might as well budget it to be a bit higher. Cell phone is always the same, transportation is always the same, personal care is always the same. But the big things are, so for my future home, Okay, first the HSA. In order to max out, I calculated, and right now to max out, I need to be doing $196.34 to max the HSA. So that's what's happening. Then for my future home, since I'm kind of repaying myself for that, and that's one reason I redid my retirement contributions, because I pulled money out of my house savings to max out my HSA. So I calculated here that I need to add an extra $87.50, $87.50. So I normally do $515. So $515 plus $87.50. Okay, so I need to put in $602.50 to repay myself. Then, okay, where does that put me? So now if I scroll up here, you'll see I earned $2,909.30, but right now I have $2,932.18, so something has to give, unfortunately. So if I take this down, if I take my groceries down to, or my food budget down to $180, I can't change my rent. I can't change my internet. I can't change my cell phone bill. I don't want to change my personal care budget. But I think what I'm going to have to do is take my household budget down $5. I'm going to take my entertainment budget down $5. It's painful, but this is what you have to do. Since my focus is my future home and putting a down payment for a home. So I have to take that down. So now I just have $2. So instead of doing $60, we'll do $57.50. I think that math is wrong. So 46. Okay, so $2,909.30, $2,909.30. So now it's balanced, and so I guess stay tuned and we will see how my budget shakes out, and if I manage to keep my groceries down to $180 and if I end up rating my future home. Fun again. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!